So, the Annecy Film Festival has come and gone for this year, which means you can probably expect all sorts of little pieces of movie news to come out as breadcrumbs over the next week or so. And probably the biggest, most notable one from over the weekend is the very next news of the next Pixar original movie. And thank goodness it's an original movie too. It's nice to hear that even though Elio is probably gonna bomb in a couple of days' time, it's nice to know that Pixar are still staying very headstrong on the still making originals in between all of their legacy sequels like Incredibles 3, Coco 2, and Toy Story 5. But either way, the next film they've got planned, beyond Hoppers and beyond Elio, set for a release in June 2027, is another new movie by the name of Gatto. Spoiler alert, that means cat. It is a cat protagonist movie set in Venice, Italy, and we only have one concept image so far, but even from just that alone, we've got all sorts of little details we can pick out and what this means for the studio as a whole. And honestly, though I'm usually quite cynical when it comes to Pixar original anything, I'm actually quite excited for this one in particular. I think this actually has the potential to be really good based on even just the simple premise alone. Now, this movie has the same filmmaking production team behind it as Luca, which you can probably see in a handful of the references they're going off of. After all, this is now another Pixar movie set in Italy, and that very much comes from the influences of the director, who is Enrico Casarosa, who was the director of Luca, and the film's also being produced by the same producer, Andrea Warren. This is very much that same team from back there, now getting another go now, and there's some potential there. Sure, Luca was a little bit of an underperforming movie that I pretty well enjoyed, I would go on to say. But you gotta remember, this was in the 2020-2021 time period where Disney decided Pixar movies go exclusively on Disney+. So despite the fact this is their second proper movie, this is probably actually their real theatrical debut. I know Luca also got a re-release on cinemas in like January time, this year or last year. Time's getting a little bit blurry for me. But even still, maybe with actual, I don't know, momentum behind it, this damn thing could be good. And it's interesting because they have made some notable creative choices in here. When you look back at the more recent Pixar movies, you can kind of come to an understanding that there is very much a new animation art style that is congruent through a bunch of Pixar productions that people aren't entirely on board with. Luca looks a little bit like Turning Red, looks a little bit like Win or Lose. You know, it's kind of like Bean people are back. But this movie's taken a little bit more of a direction there. At the same time that the industry has made ripples and waves based off of Spider-Verse, and you see that kind of paintery aesthetic in Mitchells vs. Machines, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and to some extent The Wild Robot 2, Pixar's Gatto here is also going to take that painterly kind of influence, supposedly having all sorts of 2D hand-painted textures and shaders mixed in. I kind of see a little bit of imagery in my head for like the one Disney short of the kind of 2D Disney aesthetic morphed into 3D. That's not quite what they're going for. It's a lot more Spider-Verse-y without the, you know, ultra multi-dimensional thing. But at the very least, it's nice to see Pixar as another studio taking more of a dive in their animation art style, when over the last few years we've seen kind of samey styles between movies and studios, and also even just the recent bubble of Pixar movies themselves. And actually, speaking a little bit on the short aesthetic, the director of Luca also was the creator of Pixar's Boy on the Moon short, which for me is one of my personal favorites, and I'll be honest, I'd forgotten about that little detail, but you know, it's nice. Nice to see some of the other influences they've had. Now actually, in doing a little bit of research into this movie, I also just got the whole history of Enrico Casarosa, so I've also now learned that they joined Pixar in 2002, and the movies they worked on were apparently Cars, Ratatouille, Up, Cars 2, Coco, and The Good Dinosaur as the head of story. Hey there, yes, you're halfway through the video now, so come subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you. And I think after Luca being a little bit of like a lukewarm but good experience, maybe that's reflected in their history and means this movie has all the potential to be, yeah, we'll see. At the very least, I see it in higher regards than the likes of Hoppers or Elio, and kind of Toy Story 5 too. We did actually get some news about Toy Story 5. I might make a separate little mini about that after this. Annecy Film Festival has all sorts of news from all sorts of people, and there's only going to be more, I'm sure, soon. But specifically focusing back on Gatto, we do also have a little bit of a synopsis that goes like this. After years of maneuvering the seaside extraordinary city of Venice, a black cat named Nero begins to question whether he's lived the right lives. Indebted to a local feline mob boss, Nero finds himself... Finding Nemo. Nero finds himself, okay. in a quandary and is forced to forge a truly unexpected friendship that may finally lead him to his purpose, unless the mysterious and dark side of Venice gets the better of him first. And interesting. There's a couple of overlaps there. Funny that you've got another animal named Nero instead of Nemo. Also, in case you didn't know, quandary means a state of perplexity or uncertainty on what to do in a difficult situation. I didn't know that word today. And it does sound like the unexpected friendship is also specifically a human, as another description we have is Nero dislikes water and likes music, and he befriends a street artist named Maya. So it's going to be another one of those animal speaks to human thing, kind of Ratatouille vibes in that sense, unless they don't speak. Well, that'd be interesting. That's, we've only got a single image and a description to go off of. If they do another Ratatouille and the cat doesn't speak when they're talking to humans, but obviously does when they're dealing with their feline mob boss, then yeah, interesting. Okay. There is a little bit of a red flag I can see in this description, and I hope it doesn't go that way, which is they make friends with a human, what an unexpected friendship, and then they discover their purpose. And I hope that's not just becoming a domesticated pet. I hope there's more to that sort of vibe of what a cat's life can do. There's an unfortunate through line you can make there. But overall, I'm just glad to hear there's another Pixar original, and I think it's got legs. It's funny that it comes off of the back of something to the likes of Flow, which also had a black cat protagonist in a sort of seaside-y kind of aesthetic and environment that they're dealing with. Of course, it's just a coincidence. I think this movie's been worked on for at least 2 or 3 years, so, that Latvian Oscar winners, very much just came in and wasn't the sole influence of this. But either way, I think this could really go into an interesting direction as it showcases more stylistic, creative choices, and it finally gives this poor team a chance to really get out on the big screen. It seems to have at least that sort of simple appeal of, hey, people love cats. If it's not dogs, it's cats. It's not exactly beavers. And I think so far, it just seems to be leaning into a nice, simple, standard Pixar classic way that has potential depending on where it goes from here. Now, this was part of just a single presentation from Pixar at the Annecy Film Festival, which was mostly just that presentation image and a description. They've also done other details regarding Elio, Toy Story 5, and Hoppers as well. So it's a big weekend for Pixar news. Ironically, I was waiting for a bunch of news like 2 weeks ago. Turns out it's now, so I'll get to work on all the rest of it. But from the looks of things now, the current itinerary film schedule for Pixar is Elio next week, then it's Hoppers the Beaver movie, then it's Toy Story 5, the iPad baby movie, then it's Gatto in 2027, the last two were 2026, and then presumably Incredibles 3, something else original, and then Coco 2. What a time to consume animation. But hey, that's at least the most up-to-date, furthest into the future detail we know about all things Pixar has learnt over the weekend. Taking a guess at the schedule, that means we'll probably see some sort of teaser trailer in like a year's time. So when it finally drops, I'll capture it and make a video about it as soon as I can. For now though, I'd best end it off there. What do you know? I'm actually excited for a Pixar original, and I hope the team all the best. Here's to 2027. For now though, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell me your thoughts on Pixar's Gatto. We're going back to the one-word titles, just in another language this time. Alright. I'd love to hear all your thoughts and more, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Bye-bye! I didn't say cheerio, what am I doing? I'm a mess today. Just what happens when you get dropped so much news at once.